Hey, everybody. Welcome to tonight's show. We're going to do a little something different tonight, and we're going to talk costuming, specifically G.I. Joe costuming, but costuming in general. And we're going to talk about all sorts of tips and tricks and share some stories. And I got some great guests with me tonight to talk about all things G.I. Joe costuming. So, first things first, I'm going to bring on Johnny and Newt from Simple Tricks and Nonsense, and they are amazing builders of costumes. And let's go ahead and bring them on. What's up, Johnny?
Hey, how's it going?
Good. How you doing?
Good.
Hi. Thanks
What
for
you guys
having
up
us
to?
on. Getting ready for Dragon Con.
Yeah, how's that going?
We hop from PowerCon to Dragon Con, so
Yeah, you guys are busy.
no rest.
Yeah, COVID was weird because we weren't doing any, I say, creative stuff.
Yeah.
Just working on the house and this and that, and now conventions are back. The house is at a good stable point, so now we can be creative and everything's, it's feast or famine. Everything hits at once.
Yeah.
Hey, but your pool looks rad. So
Thank you.
Thanks.
super
been a
nice to see your
lifesaver.
pool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my god, I love it. All your pictures of your pool. I'm like, man, I'm so jealous. You know, because I got to live in the desert, and you guys are out there in Florida living your best life. So. All right, cool. Well, I'm going to bring on my next guest, and this is Kevin Reitzel, aka RaiderNerd, and Kevin is the commanding officer of the finest G.I. Joe Costume Club's Southern California Coastal Defense Command. So Kevin's also a really big G.I. Joe costumer, and he's a bro. What's up, buddy?
Going on? Thanks for having me
Hey.
on. I'm having to slum it out here in Santa Barbara, California. It's so not hot out here. It's so not cold out here. But I will say I do miss this time of the year living in Georgia and getting ready for Dragon Con. I do miss it. Unfortunately, I've been going to it less lately since I moved back out to California.
Mm.
Yeah, I gotta live vicariously through Johnny and Newt there. They
It's
go to
okay.
all the cool stuff.
I do the same thing, just looking at all your customs and all your figures and stuff. So, yeah.
That's cool. So, all right. So we got Florida, we got California, and then we got little old me stuck in the desert in the middle of nowhere. Like, that's cool. That's cool. All right. So we're gonna talk costuming tonight. And Kevin, what got you into costuming?
Going to Dragon Con for too many years consecutively and missing out on the fun. My first one was in '99. I was working for a company called Decipher that made the Star Wars and Star Trek and Lord of the Rings card games, and I was a exhibitor. And then after that job ended, I still ended up going back every year. And then I moved to Georgia, and it was in 2009 I saw Zombieland, and I decided to do my Tallahassee costume, and it went over really, really well, and it started from there.
That's cool. That's cool. And you primarily get into Joe and Star Wars costuming? Are those like
Yes.
your mains?
Yeah, I'm with the G.I. Joe Finest group, of course, as you mentioned, the CO for the Coastal Defense Command out here in California. But I also joined the Star Wars Rebel Legion group and also the Star Wars 501st group as well. And then, of course, I'm a Raiders fan, and I dress up all the time for that. And since 2013, I've been doing a Raiders Mandalorian mashup that I take to games with me, and it goes over quite well.
Yeah,
Nice.
yeah, that's really cool. And that's your icon, right? The suit with the Mando.
Yeah. I wear more of a Mando outfit to the games, but I kind of do as I call the dapper outfit with the suit and stuff, because it started when I had the whole costume and I went to Dragon Con, and they had one of those Star Wars cocktail parties, the dapper dress up parties, and so I decided to combine the two, and it worked well. So
Very cool.
Nice.
And Johnny and Newt, what got you guys? I don't know. Whoever wants to go first. We're just gonna wing it tonight.
Okay. Sounds good.
Whoever wants to go first, you guys can fight over it, or you can rock paper scissors.
Ladies first.
Ooh.
Well, it's funny he mentioned 1999 because that was my first convention, and I was a little kid and I went to a Xena convention, so I dressed up as Xena and I entered the costume contest. So
nice.
I've been cosplaying since I was a little kid, and then I kind of got out of it and was just focusing on artwork and stuff. And then when I met this guy, he was into
like the Brady Bunch.
costuming, and then I was like, oh yeah.
That guy.
And then yeah, after we got together, we just started brainstorming about costumes together, and it like really took off for me after meeting him.
That's rad.
Yeah.
Jonathan.
I was one of those people that got big into Halloween. So Halloween was like the excuse to like put all that energy and creativity into something. So, and my aunt and my dad used to dress me up. Like, I think when I was 3, I had a Jawa costume. What else? I had like a made up, some kind of like galactic bounty hunter costume. And then when I got older, I'm like, okay, well, I want to do this and I want to do that. I remember in high school, I bought they had like a little prosthetic you could put on your face to look like the Terminator. And they had like a little LED and wire and all that. So my senior year, I borrowed my dad's leather jacket and his leather pants, and like woke up at 6:30 in the morning with a liquid latex and did my face all up to go to school. So it was Halloween was the big trigger point for me. And then later in the 2000s, you know, I discovered this thing called conventions. It's like, oh, you don't have to wait till Halloween. You can dress up whenever one of these things comes around. So
It's funny you mentioned Terminator because today is Skynet Day.
Oh no! Look, Skynet
no.
got him. I'm just kidding. Oh, no. That's pretty awesome. Yeah, and it's good that you mentioned Halloween. I'm sorry. Go ahead and continue.
No. So, and then, yeah, there was, the funny thing is, so going back to Halloween, I was friends with Newt's family for a long time because I work with a couple sisters and a brother. So through a Halloween party, we met and we started talking about stuff, and we, you know, talking about our interest in this and that. And then I invited her over. I said, hey, I have these projects and an extra set of hands would help. So that's when we started sculpting stuff and molding some stuff. And there was always some project going on where it's like, oh yeah, come over and help me work on this. And then it just snowballed from there. Yeah. Let's hang out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's work on this
It
project.
really was.
Is that how you did it too, Kevin, with your wife?
She just kind of she Facebook stalked me when we first kind of met, and so she knew what she was in for, and she appreciated it. She appreciated it, as she would say, "I like it. You just don't give an F."
Right? Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Hey,
Good.
whatever works, right?
Yeah, and you know, my wife's in the finest too. You know, so my wife and I we do it together, and I think that stuff's good. It's healthy.
She's a big horror movie fan, and
Yeah.
she loves Halloween, and so those things kind of work together well. And we liked a lot of the same movies, so that helped as well. And she's gotten into a little bit of the costuming too, which is good. Not as serious as I am, but she respects it. She does a really good Cersei Lannister. I'm impressed.
Nice.
Very cool. Yeah, definitely. Halloween is one of those kind of anchor points for costuming. Like I remember being a little kid, and my mother would always sew me these really nice Dracula capes. So I had like a super awesome Dracula cape. And then when my kids got to that age of trick or treating, and my little girl, one year I found a purple suit for a little kid, and I was like, oh yeah, we're gonna dress her up like the Joker. She was creepy as shit, man. So like she looked like the Dark Knight Joker with the black, and she had the suit. It is a real suit. And then my other kid, I put him in a suit, bleached it, distressed it. I gave him 2 real guns. Don't tell anybody. 2 real guns, and he's walking around base housing with real guns, trick or treating as Two-Face.
My
Nice.
my mom was really good at making stuff. She was a belly dancer, so she made all of her own costumes. And when I was infatuated with Battlestar Galactica, she made like a custom Battlestar Galactica jacket for me, like one of those.
Are you talking
dress-
1979?
Yeah, 1979.
Nice.
Yeah,
Awesome.
and I was so excited when she made that. It was so neat.
That's
I'll
so
make
Had to
you
cool.
a tin-
still had to use a flashlight for a gun, but whatever.
Yeah. I remember talking into the fan, like the fan would be on,
Cylon
and
Raider.
like Cylon, yeah, exactly. You would always talk into the fan. Yep.
Kevin, if you want, I'm just saying, I will make you a sweet tinfoil Cylon Raider costume.
Ah,
Free of
cool.
charge. Free of charge.
I want the
All right.
gold officer. That's what I want with the sword.
Nice. All right. So real quick, we got JD, we got Joseph, we got Big Bacon, Patrick, we got Dale, we got Dan Jammin, 905, Phil from Treasures for Trigger. We got a lot of people in.
Welcome to the
Dale
chat, guys.
says, I'm in summertime in Illinois. It's pretty hot here. Ugh, I bet. And he says he hasn't been to Comic-Con since 2015. We got Gaz in the house. What's up, Gaz? And then Hans Chow's here, so we can all relax. And Hans has it covered. So thanks, Hans. So yeah, we got a lot of good people in the chat, so that's real cool. I'm actually trying to keep up with it. Boom. There's my wife. Look at that. The commander. She says, great crew right there. The commander. Well, because, so my wife's in the infantry as well. And she's an officer, which is rare. So she's a female officer in the infantry. She's only one of 26. And so we jokingly call her the commander, right? Because she's a ma'am. And she's Cobra Commander's her kind of jam. She actually does a cross-dress. Well, was it a gender bending, right?
Mhm.
Cobra
Yeah.
Commander? Yeah. So she does it with the executioner's hood, not the helmet.
Nice. Love
Real cool.
hooded Cobra Commander.
Yeah. And then we got Jeremy Jernigan, my buddy. He's also combat arms in the Army. And Scuba Pete. What's up, Scuba Pete? That's cool, man. We got a lot of good people in the house. Very cool. All right. So we kind of talked about Halloween. Like Halloween is kind of an anchor point for that stuff for pretty much all of us. Johnny and New, I know that you guys you're builders, right? Like you actually you build some very intricate, very ridiculous costumes. So,
Yep.
Anybody in the chat, if you haven't seen it, they actually have a series on their YouTube channel on Simple Tricks and Nonsense. I urge everybody to go check it out. And the links for everyone's YouTube channels and socials are in the description. Please go, subscribe and check it out. But Johnny and Newt did a Road to PowerCon. It's 3 episodes. And Newt, what did you guys build in that?
We built the Baroness costume.
You sure did.
Mhm.
I'm gonna throw that up real quick. We're just kind of winging it. I have to say to everyone watching that between Kevin and Johnny and Newt, they sent me so many pictures. And we're just kind of freestyling it. I didn't know where to start.
Yeah.
Be honest. Be honest.
we're just
I was the
gonna go.
one that sent too many pictures. You can just be honest. That's fine.
You kind of all dumped on me, and I was like, we're just gonna talk costuming, so let's just go at it. So I'm gonna pull that up.
That was one of those situations where I probably didn't understand the assignment. So I'm like, oh yeah, we can talk
gonna be
about
sick.
this.
Just like, screw it. Let's just go for it. All right. So here it is right here. And yeah, I think I'm gonna go with that Google Slides moving forward, but bam. There you go. So
Nice.
there is Newt's Baroness. So you guys want to talk about this? Newt, you wanna tell us about this? You sewed that outfit, didn't you?
Yeah. It's kind of based on the new figure, but
Classified, yeah.
the classified figures. And I don't know if you can see it much in this picture, but I have 2 different materials for it, and the whole idea behind it was like a snake skin with like the belly of a snake. So this portion coming down here is a different texture than the snake skin pattern that I have here.
Let me go ahead and grab that. Actually, I put them.
I love the extended magazine on the submachine gun. That's really cool.
Yeah, Johnny put that there.
Hey, you know what? When you're a terrorist, you don't want to have to reload.
Yeah.
No. So you're talking
There,
about
you
that
can
right
see it
there,
better.
right? The different textures.
Yeah.
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 And I thought you did a great job picking that pattern.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, we just shopped around and we're like, this looks really cool. A stylized kind of belly of a snake pattern almost. So
Yeah.
it went really well with the snake skin that's on the side. So
Do you guys want to go into any detail about how you made the armor? Because I thought it was really ingenious, because my wife's isn't built like that. I thought it was really cool to watch you guys go through that process.
So yeah, I normally just get a mannequin torso for all of my armor pieces and then cut it up and modify it. But I was like, well, Johnny was like, well, why are you buying one each time when we have a vacuum form table now? So I got one, I modified it, I sanded the nipples off because you don't really want that on there. So
Batman and Robin.
yeah, it's not directed by Joel Schumacher, but
Except Batgirls didn't have them.
I know.
Yeah.
I know.
Only Batgirls. Talk about
Oh.
sexism, and I'm like,
yeah,
if Robin gets
Exactly.
nipples, Batgirl gets
That
nipples.
would have been weird.
it was weird with Batman and Robin though too. So, but no, so we made a buck with a mannequin torso who was very had my build. So yeah, it's all vacuum formed. We cut out the pieces at the bottom, and it's lined with car trim. And then this emblem in the middle is a resin cast, and then we heat bent it over top of that. So that's what
Very
it took
cool.
to make the armor.
Very cool. Well done.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, that armor is awesome. You did a
I will
really
say
good job.
most people don't recognize me in this costume.
I
I
lo-
put dark hair and glasses on, nobody will recognize me.
Well,
I
you know,
love the-
even
I
when
love the
you
belt.
first, yeah, and even when you first did it, like when you first put the whole costume on, I remember telling you like the makeup sells it. Like it just you nail it with that makeup. Like you just
Oh,
kill it. Yeah,
Just
it's such a
smoky,
good job.
smoky cat eye. That'll look like a villainess.
Smoky. Yeah,
So-
very cool.
One of the like shortcuts or the kind of cheatery moves. It's funny because like when you get into, I guess, serious costuming or cosplay, and you know you're making more stuff than you're buying, you tend to look at like the spirit store Halloween costumes or the cheap onesie Halloween costumes, and you frown upon them. You look at it and you're like, you know, that's stupid or that's cheap. But the funny thing is the efficiency that they put into it, and the idea that, okay, we have to make this one size fits all, and we need to get coverage. We need to sell the idea of who this character is. There's still something to be learned in that. So when we were working on this, she had sewn the bodysuit, and she actually had the two different texture pant legs go all the way down. And then it
Right.
was like, well, how do we do Baroness's segmented boots?
Yeah.
And then my idea was, I'm like, well, you know, we can make it super complicated, but that's like a stretch material. So what if we just cut the pant legs off short and then pin where the boots would technically start, pin them directly to the pant legs, and then we use stirrups to help keep everything taut, and the stirrups are stretching the faux boot down to her real boots, and it's giving the implied effect of like, oh, these are boots. And that's something that, like, you know, a Halloween costume would do, where it's like, oh, it's a giant onesie.
It's cutting out the layers, and then in a costume like
Yes.
this where it gets very hot, that's
Yep.
one less layer on my leg of pleather.
Or seeing the seams underneath, because if the upper
Yeah.
material is too thin, then you're going to see those seams underneath, and then it's like, oh, well, that
Plus,
looks ugly.
it's gonna help. High boots like that are tricky to stay up, so it helps
Mhm.
it stay up on my leg.
Yeah, very cool. And then there's both of you right there. What are you rocking there, Johnny? Cobra Trooper?
Yeah, it's a Cobra Trooper. It's funny because I always like carried the AK instead of like the Dragunov, which I always thought was funny that they gave the Dragunov to an infantryman instead of like, what? No, just, you know,
Yeah.
give them the fodder weapon and go kind of thing.
Right.
But yeah, that's the pants are, you know, just standard SWAT pants, and then the shirt or the tunic, we hacked up a woodland, like an 80s BDU top, and we use that as a template. And what's interesting about the old BDU tops is you actually have two seams, because they're kind of naturally bent into like a relaxed arm position. So there's two
Right.
seams on the arm, and we use that as a template to sew that, and then we just did some guesstimates and some modification to get the double-breasted part.
Let's see. What I do is I kind of cheat with, well, I guess I don't really cheat. It's just one of the tricks of the trade, right? So I have the dress shirt underneath for the collar, and then I just tuck it under my combat shirt, and then that's just how I roll like that.
Ah, nice. I was
Nice.
wondering like how you did your bib.
Yeah, it's just a dress shirt. I mean, you can see that button right there, but you can only see it because it's a it's a bottom up,
Okay.
like one of those naval shots. But yeah, I just wear the first lieutenant rank, because that's what the Cobra officer rocks. And then I just have a combat shirt, and mine's silk screened. A lot of people's, Kevin, I don't know if you care to chime in, but a lot of people, they actually sew a patch on, but mine's just silk screened like that.
Yeah.
And that's just kind of how I roll it.
I like that silk
That's
screen
just
idea. That's actually pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really comfortable. And you want to talk about cheating. So when I take the combat shirt off, the collared shirt that you actually see underneath just comes barely below my nipples, and it's like the sleeves are cut because it gets hot in costumes.
Yes. So
Exactly.
you
Anything
reduce,
that you can shed.
yeah, you reduce the layers on it. Yep.
Yeah. Anything that you can
Absolutely.
shed. So like it just barely comes to like right there.
Yep.
Yep. You're thinking the same thing we are. Like, why
Yeah.
have that extra layer there when no one's gonna see it?
Yeah.
My scout trooper was because they're supposed to be. This is from Star Wars Scout Trooper. You're supposed to have like your black flight suit, and then you're supposed to have like a flak vest over top of that, which is short sleeve. And you're supposed to have your cummerbund, and you're supposed to have your armor, and that's too many layers. So my flak vest was actually incorporated. It's just sleeves. It gives the implication that there's a flak vest there, and it's just sleeves attached to the actual flight suit. So yeah, anytime you can still give the impression of whatever it is, but you reduce the layers or the complexity or the heating up or anything like that, then go for it. Do it.
We have this phrase in the Army that we use, well, specifically in the infantry, and it's called ounces equal pounds and pounds equal pain, right? And that's kind of the same thing with costuming, and I'm sure you guys can all attest to that. Like the more crap you're wearing all day, especially when you're looking at troopers and officers and anything where your face is covered, like you're just getting hotter and hotter and hotter all day long.
I remember wearing my full Raider Mando to a Tampa Raiders game, and it was like 105 degrees with humidity, and that was the most hot I had to deal with. But I did lose 10 pounds that day.
Oh, good Lord. I bet you did, man. I bet you did. Speaking of which, let's show Kevin some love. Look at this guy right here. Look at
That's
that.
awesome.
Boom.
Nice.
All right, Kevin,
that
you
was
want to talk about your Major Blood?
Yeah, this one was so my first costumes were after my favorite action figures from back in the day. And as you can see, you have the classic one there. I have like an updated one here that I've got, but that one and the Shipwreck were my favorite action figures. And I decided to in the Finest, you can do your costume, just make sure that it's a particular chosen item, whether it's a toy, a movie, a sideshow collectible. And I was always a fan of that original action figure, and so I decided to model it after that. And that was one of my favorite ones, and that was the first bad guy I did, if I remember correctly. I did G.I. Joe first, which was Shipwreck, and I'm like, I got to do Major Blood because I loved Major Blood in the cartoons, but specifically I really liked him in the comics, and I want to make sure that I did that. And I kind of updated it a little bit. I got like the motocross bike vest. I asked a lot of my fellow Finest for their if I could use their names on name tag,
the dog
tag, and a couple of them are like, nah, not over. You got to kill me first. But a few of them are from friends of mine, which is pretty cool. And then I had the gun from the action figure 3D printed there.
That's really cool.
Yeah, I changed the patches though later to real patches, but I decided to kind of toy them up at first. And I made them custom out of foam and stuff like that, and gave more of kind of a 3D look to it and stuff like that. But I need to update the arm, I guess the right arm. I guess you call it the mechanical part of the arm or stuff like that. So, but that one was one of my favorites.
How do you articulate that elbow? Is it a hinge?
I'll be honest. I used truck floor mats to make that thing. and I had one on the front, and then I had one around the top of the arm, and but I'm gonna actually be upgrading that. I'm gonna be using some other foam to make it a little more up to date, so to speak. But yeah, I used truck floor mats for that, and some hidden snaps and stuff like that. So
I almost want to like run off and like go get, because I made that costume for my dad, and I want to like run off and go get like his mechanical arm parts.
Yeah.
Like be like, okay, this is how I made this.
I want to go to foam though, and I have a bunch of those. You know, when you go to like the Five Below stores and they have those floor mats that kind of have the metal looking top to them, the rubber.
Oh, yep.
I have a bunch of those. I'm going to use that because they're lighter weight and they'll be easier to take on and take off. I just want to customize it, but I don't have a picture of it here. But the backpack is what I was really proud of because I had the 3 missiles in the back.
Oh, awesome.
And I used the backing of the motorcycle vest to connect because there was a separate shield on the back you could take on and take off for the motorcycle vest, and I just used the back of that to attach to my my backpack. And unfortunately, I don't have a picture of it here though, but I was really proud of that.
Yeah, I was. That's actually really cool, and this is why I kind of wanted us to have this conversation, you know, because the 3 of you have a lot of experience with, you know, building costumes and, you know, what is just surplus and what is actually like what you're getting into, like the hard build of. And Johnny and Newt, I know you guys know that. And, you know, Kevin, you just said the same thing, like you use truck floor mats.
I have a story. When you said surplus, I have a story with one of the pictures I sent you, the incognito Cobra Commander. That's an interesting story.
Yeah, I'm going to get to that in 1 second. And here, this is for you. Even though I keep covering your face, Kevin, and I'm sorry, but that's for you.
Nice. The stash is fantastic. Yeah, I went to one of those costume/magic stores in Marietta, Georgia, and I found the right stash, and I bought like 4 or 5 of them and made sure that I would have them for a while.
That's very awesome. And
That's
you know,
smart.
when Johnny, when you were talking about the I believe that was you talking about the automotive trim on the Baroness armor. Remember, you and I were going back and forth about that.
Yeah,
for a while?
you gave me the idea on that because when you got your wife's armor and then you're like, oh, I added that trim. I'm like that's a brilliant idea. I mean, that's totally, well, they did that in Return of the Jedi to save wear and tear on the Stormtrooper armor because you get those stress fractures along the edge. Yeah. Plus, it gives an extra layer and it looks more purposeful.
Makes it look really pretty and just cleans up the edges.
Yeah,
so
it really does.
It's really smart.
It frames it nicely. I don't know if anybody's watching the chat, but Hans Chow, he's tearing away. he's tearing away here. Let me back up a little bit. So he says, here you go. He asked me if my Baroness was hard to wear. Was it the hardware? Haha, he's here all week. And then he asked me if it was comfortable or was it sacrificing for the art. He's killing it. Hans is hilarious. Yeah, really cool. One thing that I wanted us to kind of talk about. So we talk about costumes and tips and tricks and things like, you know, Kevin's backpack and the rubber mats and so on and so forth. So when we talk about G.I. Joe costuming and in general, there's obviously a different way that you're going to approach different characters, right? When you look at the 1982 lineup, aside from guys like Flash or Grand Slam or maybe Steeler's Visor, it's pretty much just military surplus at that point. And Kevin, I know you do a lot of Joe costumes. Here's one specifically that I want to kind of throw up. Would you say that one's predominantly surplus, your Chuckles?
It is, but what's funny about that is I did the Chuckles. Here's a little trick here. I did the Chuckles after I did my Tiger Force Recondo from the action figure. It was the JoeCon exclusive from like 2015 or I can't remember. Maybe it's 2010 or something. And I had a bunch of components for that one, and I'm looking at it going, well, we've been kind of doing this Chuckles Power Hour where a bunch of the finest would gather at Dragon Con or at JoeCon and all dress up as Chuckles for a few hours and have like cocktails and have fun, right? And I realized I had the pants, I had the boots, I had the belt, and I had the shoulder holster and gun. And I'm like, I basically just need blonde hair and a Hawaiian shirt. Yeah, there you go. There's my Tiger Force Recondo there. Yeah.
Nice.
And I'm like, and then I just did Chuckles. And yes, those boots and that, it's like a lot of it's surplus, you know. The gun, basically, the gun right there, the rifle, it's undersized, but it was more of the knife that I wanted to get. But I got that gun, I think, at a Dollar General store. But I did have the Hunga Munga blade, as they call it, custom made by a friend of mine. And then I finished it off because that particular action figure had that blade, and that's what its nickname is. And it goes back to the Indonesian days. And also Buffy used it in season 1.
Yeah. And that's why I put these images together on the slide. That's why I was looking for your Tiger Force Recondo, because I wanted to talk about weapons at some point too. And I know that, Johnny, you sent me this image of the RPG, correct?
Yeah.
You want to talk about that real quick?
Yeah, that's a real RPG.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay, I'm gonna show my age. If anybody remembers the old MASH series, Radar was sending a Jeep home one piece at a time. So Radar was taking apart an old Army Jeep, and he was shipping it back to his family. So he would ship back like a steering wheel or, you know, an exhaust manifold, or just one part at a time. He was doing that. So when my dad he was a contractor in Iraq in 2006, and he was doing military vehicle training for the Iraqis. And he would see this stuff like everywhere. You know, as they were dismantling whatnot, there would just be whole junkyards of, you know, BDRMs and like piles of AKs and this and that. So he scavenged and he found the best components of an RPG, and then he purposefully hacked it up into unrecognizable sections and sent it back. And then once it got back, we re-welded it together and put it all back together and this and that. So that's kind of sitting in the prop arsenal.
Yeah. And that's kind of the thing with weapons. So that sort of goes along with what I was saying about my kid, and, you know, like here's 2 real handguns, go out and trick or treat, you know. So, I mean, nobody in the neighborhoods knew that my kid was walking around with a real 380 and a real revolver. Like, it's just a kid with toy guns. Like, don't look too close, you know. Yeah, you know, one of those things. But yeah, weapons. So, okay, so let's talk about the difference between surplus costuming, fabrication, and a combination. So I don't know, Johnny, you wanna start us off?
Well, you and I had like a back and forth getting into this, and we were kind of outlining when it comes to Cobra. There's a lot that you can pretty much buy off the shelf or order. So, you know, surplus stores, Army, Navy stores, which those are getting harder to find. But you can find like the SWAT gear and, you know, the knee pads and the combat boots and the ammo pouches. You can find that stuff pretty easily, and then you just have to do slight modifications, like what you've done with the silk screening of the Cobra emblem or ordering patches. But then when you get to somebody like the Crimson Guard, that's going to be way harder to find. So then that means you're going to have to do more of the fabrication yourself. Right. And then again, when you get to the helmets, that's where, you know, you might be doing fiberglass or 3D printing, or might be doing like EVA foam work, stuff like that. Or you might luck out and find a vendor who's actually making some of those helmets. But that's Cobra. And then when you get to the Joes are getting the more standard military stuff, the stuff where you really can find stuff off the shelf or order it directly with very little modification. And then that's not all Joes, not like, you know, Super Trooper or, you know, Blowtorch, but
right,
you know, like Flint or Beachhead or whatnot, you can pretty much just order that entire costume.
I am actually right now, yeah. And then so this is the 1982 lineup, you know, minus Steeler, minus Clutch, but I mean, there you go. Right. There's no Grand Slam in there, but it's pretty much the majority of them. Right? You know, you got Grunt, you got Flash, you got Stalker, right, on and on and on and on. And they're most of them, like if you look at Rock and Roll, You know, if you look at Grunt, specifically Grunt, like he's Grunt. They're not very hard to recreate. Even Snake Eyes, you know, minus the mask and so on and so forth, it's not that hard to do. Kevin, you want to chime in on that?
Yeah, it's interesting too when you see. I got a good friend of mine that does the Grunt, and I got another friend of mine that does Steeler, and he got that perfect Steeler helmet with the special
visor.
goggles on it.
Mhm.
And if you have the right gun or weapon that came with those figures too, we all know what it is. It's great, and I've seen pretty much. And my good friend Chuck did the Breaker, the original Breaker, and he did the backpack, and he made it light up. He even made it able to charge your cell phone on it. It was great, and everyone, even though it looks simple, most of it is. It's more the accessories that you have to make sure you get right to really kind of sell it. But yes, everything else you can find pretty much surplus.
You know, and that's actually a really good point. So the accessories that sell it, you know, as a toy customizer, and this is just me, right? Because there's very many ways. There's very rarely the way, which I'm a big fan of that phrase. As a toy customizer, when I make my costumes, I weather them just like I weather my custom vehicles.
Yeah.
You know, so all the like certain points where it's going to be battle damaged, and the grenades and the knife, and I put rust on the blade of the knife, and all the way down to the smallest details. When my wife and I, when we were first like kind of road testing her Baroness costume, we went to the El Paso Comic Con, and I put so much detail on the airsoft guns that they looked at them for a good 5 minutes, like trying to figure out. I mean, obviously you can tell by the weight alone, but because I made them metallic and then I beat them down.
The other thing regarding accessories too is that's how you can make a G.I. Joe costume stand out if it's a popular one that everyone has done.
Yep.
When I did and I don't know if I sent you a picture or not, but when I did my Chuckles, I also decided, well, I'm going to do the one from the movie where he decides to get the missile off the G.I. Joe Havoc and throw it at the Cobra Hiss. And I decided to make
with Sergeant Slaughter.
I decided to make a full-size missile, and here's a troop that we did where I met Sergeant Slaughter, and I took that to Dragon Con for the first time, and everyone was like, "Oh my God, it's Chuckles with a missile!" And a good buddy of mine, Scott, gave me the idea because he did an older version, but he got like a little tiny plush version of it. But I decided to go, I did that's like a pool noodle, foam, and some solo cups at the end of it. And nice. I just did a glue job and reinforced it a little bit and painted it all red. So
that's awesome.
And that's the kind of stuff that makes those costumes fun. Like, yeah, you could do it Chuckles, but as soon as you sent me that picture, I was like, oh, that's great. I got to go find the image from the movie.
Yeah. And I did get a different, I did find a better shirt that was closer to the one that he had in the cartoon. But, as long as you got the bright Hawaiian shirt with like, the pink flowers, you're good.
Yeah. Shoulder holster. I have like 30 Hawaiian shirts. I'm actually a big fan of Hawaiian shirts. And every so often I look through my closet and I was like, a couple of those could probably pass as Chuckles. I wouldn't want to do a Chuckles, and that's just a personal thing.
It's
the one
really
I'm working
easy.
on now, but go ahead.
I was just going to say it's real easy, and it fits in the same costume box with my Recondo. So if I decide to change it, there I can right there.
There's another one. That's an awesome shot, man.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
He's such a sweet man. He's really cool.
And since you're flexing, I'm gonna help you keep flexing, and then we're gonna go back to Johnny and Newt, and then they're gonna flex for a minute. So why don't you flex on this for me? That's you and the man right there. So why don't you talk about this? You had already mentioned this costume.
Yeah, I got to tell you, this is the epitome of cheap, easy costume. And it started with, I always go to thrift stores all the time because I like to look for physical media, DVD, movies. And issue 55, Unmaskings, was a big G.I. Joe comic. And I always liked the idea of the undercover Cobra Commander. I was looking to try to do something different that no one else in the finest had done. And I decided, well, if I'm going to do this, I'm not going to do custom made stuff. I'm not going to get anything too expensive. This is going to be a budget costume. So I decided to, okay, the big key to this costume is the large blue coat. And if I see it in a thrift store, I'm going to start there. If I see the hat, I can get it later, but I'm going to worry about that. So, and I found it in a woman's section. That is a gigantic woman's coat right there, that blue one. And I had the inside of the sleeves lengthened a little bit because I was able to bring it down. And he also had a really cool mustache I was able to find. It's a little bit different than the one that Major Blood had, a little bit shorter. And I was able, everything there, with the exception of the shoes and the hat, all were from a thrift store. And the glasses actually were great because I need glasses to see. I found these great wraparound glasses that fit over my normal glasses so I could see. And I debuted that costume at Joe Atlanta, and I went up to Larry Hama, who I had met once before, and I said, how's it going? I don't know if you remember this. He's like, oh, I remember. And he actually took the picture of me from his desk, and I'm doing my thing, and I had him draw a hand-drawn sketch, but he ended up posting it on his own Facebook page saying someone's a little incognito, and that took off. Everyone loved it. And my good friend at the time, my friend Noel, who was in the Georgia Southern Command Garrison's, like, dude, I will do Destro. And he did Destro, and we did a photo shoot together, and we did the last Joe Con together as both Incognito, Destro, and Cobra Commander. I'm very proud of this one because it was easy to put together, it was cheap, and so many people get it and love it.
That's real cool, man.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I dig that. That is super cool. Yep. Yeah, as soon as you sent me that picture, I was like, oh yeah. We're gonna throw that up.
Do you have do you have the one of me and Noel is oh yeah, there's the Joe Atlanta one there where Larry Alman took a picture with all of us there. But I had another one too, where it was a card picture of me and Destro too. But that was a lot of fun though. Good. That's with my Georgia Garrison there at the time.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Like, thrift stores are the best. Yeah. Like when my favorite part is like they organize by color. So if you're looking for like a Joker suit, or if you're looking for a Riddler suit, or you're looking for a blue trench coat, they've organized their inventory by color.
Yeah.
So you're not hunting all over the place. You're like, I'm going to gravitate straight towards the blue or whatever particular color you're looking for, and you're able to like rip through it real fast and be like, okay, nothing here. Let's go to the next thrift store.
And when I made the pledge to make that costume, it was about a year later I found that coat at a thrift store, and I wasn't in a hurry to do it because I knew I would find it, and I did.
Well, that's kind of the big thing too. Like, you know, as with anything that you build or create, like you definitely don't want to rush it.
Yeah.
Speaking of not rushing, let me bust out a picture of somebody who didn't rush a costume. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Newt, pick a number, 1 or 2.
2.
Talk about this.
This is us at PowerCon. I actually made that Princess Adora costume 3 years ago, 2 years ago, something like that, and I just never wore it out. I actually didn't have it completely finished until right before PowerCon. I did the belt, and that was the only thing I needed to do. But
that is so cool.
Thank you. But yeah, this is such a comfortable costume to wear. Other than the shoes, it was.
I was going to ask you about the shoes.
Yeah,
I'm very short, so I need like all the heels I can get.
Your Baroness boots are heeled too, yeah?
Yeah, but those aren't as much as that. I have I think they're about like 4 inches, so they're not as drastic as that one, but they're I have inserts in them to make myself a little taller.
You guys killed it with these costumes. Johnny, that Warduke is ridiculous, man.
Yeah, people went crazy over his Warduke at the con. Like
That's
that was
awesome,
so
man.
many men's like favorite toy growing up, and you find out like they're like, oh my god, it's Warduke.
Well, like Kevin, I lost a bunch of weight from sweating to death.
That is amazing, though.
But look at how ripped you are. It worked out. I gotta say, man, like, you know, you and I talk all the time, and as soon as you showed me this, I was like, get the out of here, man. That is so awesome. You guys together, like, I mean, I've already gushed all over the two of you, just how ridiculous it is. And here's another. Like, look at that. And that's a She-Ra that was cut out of the
Wow.
The
movie,
19
correct?
movie, yeah. Yep, she
Dolph
was.
Lundgren movie.
Yeah, William Stout designed her, and she was going to be in it, and then they decided for changing the script, and She-Ra's not going to be in it. So I was like, well, William was going to PowerCon, so I was like, okay, and I told him, I was like, if you come to PowerCon, I'll make your She-Ra costume. So he was like,
So
okay, I'll
cool.
come to PowerCon.
That's really awesome. And that
And
Manny
Johnny-
Faces has all the faces, doesn't it, Johnny?
Yeah, that was that's some of the fun of it, is trying to work out, you know, not only create a challenge for yourself, but if something like in the case of Chuckles with the missile from the Havoc, you know, if something has a play feature that you can replicate, then why not go for it? You know, especially in this day and age where we have servos, and we have, you know, computer assisted this, and we have 3D printers, and we have all this technology that helps us to make stuff. You know, remember growing up, and like, we had an inflatable lightsaber. You know, it was like an inflatable tube attached to a flashlight. And then we get to the 2000s, and it's like, oh, look, here's an LED in the bottom of this, and it actually looks like a real lightsaber. We've turned that corner as far as technology goes. And if you want to try to build in a feature into something wearable, we can do it now.
Yeah. And you used what, a bucket for the head?
Yeah, it was a trash can.
Trash can.
Which is funny
Bucket,
because,
trash
like,
can, whatever.
I've used so many trash cans for, like, costume stuff over the years. It's hilarious.
Yeah.
But
And
you
then
add stuff onto it, and you never know it was a trash can. You change the top of it. Yeah,
So cool.
And the
Gribbly's.
harness, you greebled that from all hardware parts, right? And then you just painted it up.
That was so.
I know the two parts in the middle were
PVC
cast,
pipe.
right?
No, it's
Oh, okay.
PVC pipe. So it's one, two. The X part, the base part was just craft foam, like, glued together, and then each little metallic fitting was just pieces of PVC, probably cut at like 3/4 of an inch to maybe like 1 inch in length, and then glued on. And the two purple cylinders in the center, that's a PVC pipe that probably got cut at like 5 to 6 inches, and then halved, like dremeled in half, and then glued on.
Yeah, man. Those costumes are insane.
Wonderful job, guys.
Thank you.
All right. One more. Are you ready? You'd be a little more uncomfortable for a second.
Yeah.
How long did it take to create your merman, Johnny?
How long did it take?
We started it.
We sculpted
Like-
the head on like Friday, Saturday, and then it was molded Sunday.
That always goes by fast because that's the funnest part is
Yeah,
sculpting and molding. All that.
The
I would say probably overall like over a month, 2 months
Yeah.
probably. From
the
start to
armor
finish.
the armor went pretty fast, except for I hit a couple stumbling blocks trying to figure out the kind of jagged parts on the bracers and the shin guards, trying to figure out how I was going to get that kind of jagged, crustacean looking. And because I always try to do something where I like things that are universal. I understand build a little asymmetry into something and it makes it look more believable. But as far as production goes, if I can make one of something and then reuse it several places, then I'm better off. So while the head was waiting to be molded, Newt and I sat down and we sculpted, I think, 3 different lengths of those little jaggedy parts that go on the forearms. We had like a short one, a medium one, and a long one. And then we molded those and cast those out of latex. And then, since latex is flexible, they're just glued onto the craft foam parts, and then
Yep, just wrapped around.
just wrapped around it. Yeah.
Phil wants to know if it's waterproof.
Oh God, I'm sure as soon as I got in the water, I'd weigh like 25 pounds more.
You just
soak up
swell
the
and
water.
sink.
But
Yep,
all the
exactly.
armor would float because it's foam.
The armor would float and like rip off myself. All the rest of me sank.
I didn't get a picture of you with the sword because I really like this. This is what they call a hero shot, right? Which I
Mhm.
thought you framed it perfectly. I didn't get a shot of you with the sword.
That's like, we always do that. We're like, okay, it's done. I think I finished the last component of whatever it is. Let's do a full suit up, do a trial run to see how it wears. Because you can tell right off the bat, like right after you put something on, if something is screwed up, if something's like,
Or if
digging
after
into
a couple hours it's gonna bug you, kind of thing.
yes, like if something's digging into your elbow, or something's riding too high or too short, or it being exposed, you figure that out almost immediately, especially like right after you put it on. If you just walk around a little bit.
Yep.
The other thing is, you also, after X number of hours of seeing this thing in pieces, you want to see it complete. You want to see like the whole ensemble on you to see if you've achieved that look, because you've been looking at it in its component form and not all together. So this gets to be the first time to do that.
Looks like an action figure. It's so cool.
Right? Yeah, that's in our side yard. That's like right next to our driveway. Like, go over there and take our pictures.
Oh, it's green where I live, and it's green where I live.
Yeah, well, we got mosquitoes
I
here
live in
too.
California.
Do your neighbors know what you do?
They're like, hey man, what the hell is that in your yard? I'm gonna shoot it.
Yeah, we don't talk to the neighbors.
Yeah, we don't interact with our neighbors too much here in there, like, oh, there's something in your yard or whatever, but they haven't noticed us being weird yet, I don't think. So
That's awesome. And then real quick,
that they might just not be talking to us because of it. I don't know.
You leave them weirdo McDonald's alone. And then real quick, Hans Chow had to throw in a Jaws quote there. Lifeless eyes, black eyes like a dog's eyes.
That's literally what I was quoting while he was making it. I was he's like,
because I was asking her, I'm like, should I go ahead and paint in like a yellow iris on the secondary? The eyes are made out of the do-it-yourself Christmas ornaments, where it comes in two little halves, and you can like throw junk inside there and close the two halves of the Christmas ornament. So that's on the
Christmas ornament.
So on the exterior, you have the Christmas ornament, and then on the interior, you have it's a replacement welder's visor, which is super easy to you can cut that out with like tin snips, and then so those two layers are like glued together, and it creates a good mirrored effect. But I asked Newt, and I said, should I paint, or should I cut some vinyl and put irises in there, or should I just make it be lifeless and you can't know where he's looking or what he's thinking?
Yeah,
you could have painted it and that would have looked good, but one that would have messed up your vision. Like
it would have reduced.
You would have been seeing through a lot less. And then I like the black eyes. Like I started quoting Jaw. I made that same quote. It was like lifeless black blank eyes.
And then here's another person from your fans of power, Mr. Joe Amato himself, best merman cosplay I have ever seen.
Joe has the best mask.
Yeah. And then his Modulok mask?
Yes.
Yep.
His Modulok mask.
I gotta say, like you nailed it. Like the lethality of Merman, not being like a slapstick kind of character, like you killed it.
The thing is, I can't take credit for the design because Tweeterhead, they did the statue of Merman and Tila, and we looked at those, and that's the great thing when these toys that we're trying to mimic, when they get into like the higher end 1/6 scaler statues, I don't know, like a switch flips for those guys that design it, because then they're looking at it realistically and they're going like, well, how is that armor attached? Well, we should put in some buckles or latches here, or it's like, well, how did Merman get his armor? It's like, well, maybe he harvests it from stuff that he finds on the bottom of the ocean. He sources it from what's available. So it's those artists that figure out those logical solutions. And then when you have it in a scale that big, you're able to look at it and go, oh, well, that's what they did there, and that's what they did there, and you're able to translate that a lot easier to full size.
Yeah, that's really cool, and you nailed it. And then just like you were talking about, once you get into larger scales of figures, I mean, these are action figures, right? And then when I put them up, people in the chat were like, "Oh, is that a costume or is that a figure?" Because sometimes it gets
When
kinda
we
hard to
Google it,
tell.
I always think that Cobra Trooper is John because I'm like, that looks just like his
Yeah.
costume. I'm like,
Well,
oh, there's a
actually,
picture of you. Oh wait, no, that's a toy. Sorry.
well, if you look at Johnny's slide, like Johnny got a slide, he got some love, right? Like I threw him side by side like that.
Nice.
It's hard to tell.
That's what I'm talking about. I at first glance, I think it's him. If I'm just
Yeah.
doing Google searches.
I cut out the people around you, dude.
Thank you.
It's cool. Yeah. It's just for you. But yeah, that's a sideshow Cobra Trooper, and I mean,
Yeah.
look at like you killed it.
Those things help so much as you're attempting to problem solve or source what you need to make things out of, because you can look at that and you're like, okay, I have a better understanding of what that's supposed to be.
Yeah. And I kind of did the same with mine, and I mean, just whatever. But I mean, there's mine and my wife's, and again, I have to thank Johnny and Rebekah for the Cobra emblems for my wife's bracers. Because,
Oh, that's cool.
yeah, you saved my ass with those, man. Like I had the bracers, I just didn't have the emblems, and then when you sent that first batch, and you were like, don't use those.
I know. I was so disappointed because I was like, oh, I thought this was going to be a great solution, and then I went to test it myself. I'm like, wait a minute,
The
like,
glue's not taken.
yeah, this is not going to work. So it's like
those are cool.
like having to backtrack.
And a lot of it is themes. So just like with your guys' costumes, like when I was looking at my wife's, I'm like, okay, so we went a different route with her boots. We didn't go all the way over the thigh. We just went like boots with the motorcycle buckles, but the buckles, yeah, like the little clasps on her gloves and these buttons and all of the metal on my wife's, it's all the exact same color. I don't have like a gold and a silver and then like a blackened kind of silver. And I have to say, hey, Kevin, Newt and Johnny made Newt's entire Baroness costume in the time it took me to rivet the damn buckles on my wife's armor.
Yeah, a lot of ingredients in costume are time, patience, material, and procrastination.
Yeah.
Yes. Very true.
100%. And yeah, and my wife's has gone through a couple of iterations. Like she has a different bodysuit that's a less shiny material, and it actually has like red piping on it, so that kind of works.
Oh,
She has
that's
a red
cool.
one as well, but yeah, for my officer, it's everything is surplus except the helmet.
Yep.
Like that's a toy grenade, that's a rubber toy knife. I don't carry I don't carry a long rifle in mine. I just have the knife and the grenade, and then that's just kind of how I roll. If kids want to take pictures, I just pull my knife out of the sheath and I'm like, here, hold this. But I'm also like, I'm at conventions and stuff, and I'm shopping, man. Like, I don't want to be
Yeah. You don't want to be encumbered.
I feel that. Yeah.
Well, I lucked out. I found that AK that I got. That's a super cheap airsoft one, and that thing weighs nothing. It's all plastic. I never put the battery or anything in it, so it's super lightweight. I threw a sling on it, so
Yep.
But yeah, I get that.
I had looked at some airsoft AKs, and I'm like, well, the officer doesn't have an AK, so I'm just gonna do. Or the officer does have the AK, but yeah, there's yours right there.
Yeah.
I looked at a couple of the airsoft ones. I saw one that had like that faux wood grain stock. I didn't want to rock a rifle, for some reason, just shooter preference. I didn't feel like doing it.
Well, I mean, Newt's Baroness, she should be having her sniper rifle, but I was like, the trouble is, Newt, how tall are you?
I'm 4'10".
Yeah, 4'10". So you give her like a 4 foot long sniper rifle.
Yeah,
it's only going to make her look shorter.
Well, then she would look like a '90s G.I. Joe figure, right? Where
Yeah.
Oh God! Oh
with
yeah,
a 4-inch weapon.
Were the guns bigger than? Wait, did they do that because of like choking hazards? Were they overcompensating for like choking hazards or something?
I thought you said it's because the '90s were extreme. What's up, Ken? I wanted to say hi to Ken real quick.
They were doing the do.
Do the do. Yeah. Kevin, what else do you want me to throw up here, buddy? You want me to throw something else up? Because once we move on, like we're gonna get into some sticky territory here in a second.
I forgot what else I sent you there.
And then real quick, look at that.
Nice.
There is the newt right
Yep.
there. I
You
love
can
this
see how
picture.
short I am there.
I love it.
I'm
That's
not
such a
wearing
great
heels.
picture.
Do you have the shipwreck one? I wanted to mention something that for those that are watching, if you're interested in getting into the GI Joe Finest group, you can go to the website, thefinest.com, and then you can also go to a really great Facebook group called the Finest Recruitment Center. And that is a great place to introduce yourself to people. If you have questions about a build, you only need one costume to be approved to get into the Finest. Yeah, there you go. You can go to forums over there, and I think that will take you to some options for submitting a costume. But the Facebook group, the recruitment center, is really good for kind of getting ideas. But the one thing you want to do is if you already have a costume, these are great. These cards that they've been done. Yeah, I have several of those. Those are a lot of fun.
Don't get sidetracked.
Yeah,
don't get sidetracked.
But anyway, one of the things you want to do is you may have a costume already, but what they want you to do is fine tune your costume on something specifically that you pick. Like I said, it could be an action figure, it could be a screenshot from a cartoon, a movie, but it can't be a combination of everything. You may look like Cobra Commander, you may look like the Baroness, you may look like Snake Eyes, but you got to make sure that whatever image that you choose from, you make sure that your costume looks like that. The pieces, the way your harnesses are, the way your weapons is, wherever your patches are, make sure that it is that costume. When I did
of padding,
exactly,
the direction of padding. Yep.
Yeah, I decided to, I remember I decided just as a fluke, my friends and I were like, what do you want to do for Dragon Con one year? Like, well, next year, let's be B and C level G.I. Joes. I said, well, great. I'm going to be Shipwreck. And I decided to get really anal and do it just like that action figure, that first Shipwreck action figure. I made those boarding hooks just like they were. I made that little blue hook on my belt that the action figure had. When it came to Polly the parrot, I decided to go big. I didn't do the small one. And the flintlock, I painted it silver because that's the way the toy was, and I decided to make sure it looked as authentic as it was. And when I went there with my friends, we didn't even know about the Finest. It wasn't until we posted it up on the Facebook Dragon Con Facebook group, and they reached out to me saying, hey, we have this Sunday photo shoot. Anyone in a G.I. Joe costume can show up. And then they said, look, you need to submit that. And I didn't make a change on anything. I submitted it and got approved because I did it specifically for the action figure. And I showed that picture when I submitted it. So just remember that. Make sure that if you're going to do a Cobra, make sure it's specifically which one, the toy from that thing. Just make sure you follow it exactly to that when you submit your picture of what you're going to be doing.
Yeah, 100%. And I was going to bring up the Finest website anyway, because there's a lot of great resources. Like there's the gallery, there's the forums. The forums has a lot of great information. And then like here on the resources tab, it's got field manuals for how you can actually make these costumes.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of cool stuff on this site, and it's a great group to belong to.
Yeah, and there's a lot of people 3D printing more than ever now, and there's people part of that group. And by the way, I love that alien shot there. That is so cool. Aliens is one of my favorite movies of all time. My wife and I bonded on that film. We actually got married on Alien Day in Las Vegas, LV 426.
Nice.
Jesus, man. I am not surprised. That's actually cool. My wife and I got married in June, so we have the excuse of going to Joe Fest as our anniversary every year.
Oh, nice.
So
that's an alien wedding ring
nerds.
right there. Check that out.
Nice. Very cool. Hey,
Nice.
look at that husband and wife doing
Oh, that is so cool.
Look at that. I love it. I tell Johnny and Newt all the time, I was like, you guys are my favorite duo ever. Just my favorite. Like, look at that, right?
So cool.
Rad. It's real cool.
I think I saw you guys.
All right. So what I want to do now is I kind of want to get into the next conversation. And Johnny, I think you know where I'm going with this, man. Let's talk about Hollywood and movie costumes. And I'm going to let you take it away, Johnny.
It's just that. Where should we start?
Or Newt, unless you want to go off.
Well, Johnny and I talk about this a lot, actually. The whole, like, why can't Hollywood get it right? Why is it like cosplayers can blow Hollywood out of the water sometimes with certain things?
Yep.
Right.
Exactly. On a budget too. You have an amateur, a not professional costume maker
Making it by themselves without a
making
team.
it by themselves in their kitchen for a budget of $200, and it looks like the source material. Yet, Hollywood comes along and they're like, it has to be their spin on it. It has to. I guess egos get in the way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Something like that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's not hard to get it
But
right, and I don't understand why.
The 1994 Roger Corman Fantastic Four. Like, look how well they did with what they had. And it's like, you look at it and you go, this Fantastic Four, done. That's 1990s Fantastic Four with the white collar. It's, you accomplished it.
Yeah. You guys got any thoughts on this?
Yeah, those are some things that we noticed watching these films. We love the actresses, but the costumes. I mean, you call yourself Scarlet, but are you? You really got to kind of lend yourself from the source material and use it well. And that's what I think Marvel's done well with the MCU. They would update a little things here and there, but they really do get a lot of those costumes good. Some of them maybe not, but most of them they are.
Yeah, Iron Man looks like Iron Man, and Captain America looks like Captain America.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that when you do these iconic characters, you really need to pay attention to that and the source material. And now that we have the internet at our hands, these costume designers, when they need reference, why don't they just type in frickin' Dragon Con?
Right?
Yeah, exactly. The unfortunate thing is they go by the very first things they'll type it in Scarlet, and they'll go by the very first things they see, and that's unfortunate because what if the very first things coming up aren't, let's not say correct, but aren't the best example?
Yeah,
and then that's what they're latching onto, And
a lot of it too is red hair, ponytail, crossbow, done.
Mm-hmm.
Like everything else to these people with their high level overview, it just doesn't matter. They're just like,
I hate their mindset of that could never work. That's complete BS. Like, it can absolutely work with camera, and that's what I like to do, and Johnny and I like to do. And with stuff like my Princess Thor and my She-Ra, where when I made those costumes, there was no like real life version of that. So I'm like, well, you just add texture to it. You make it out of leather, you leather it. And it's like, no, it'll work if you just.
What about this guy?
It's just lack of imagination.
Yeah. What about this guy? Were they do you think they were going for version 2 Roadblock? I threw version 2 Roadblock in there because he's a little closer than version 1 Roadblock. Version 1 Roadblock is miles away from this. What do you think, Kevin?
Yeah, I think you're right. And they have to keep it practical, present day look. You don't want blaring colors out there, especially if you're going stealth. And I get that. But I think this one was pretty good. I like the version on the left there better, honestly. I just, if you're going to do Roadblock 2, you got to talk about some food. You got to do some cheesy, rhyming, just do something to kind of throw something in there that makes it feel like other than you're trying to make the look, know something about the character, throw something in there,
When I watched Retaliation and they had Adrian Palicki as Lady J, and looks nothing like Lady J whatsoever. Doesn't even have the spear gimmick. I was like, I could excuse everything else if she just busted out the spear gimmick once.
Yeah.
Like some kind of spear gimmick. Like, just let me have a spear gimmick.
And what's
And-
funny is that Retaliation is probably the best G.I. Joe movie that we got, if you don't count 1982 Megaforce.
Yeah, Megaforce is the best G.I. Joe movie ever. Hey, Johnny, look who just showed up.
Oh, speak of the devil.
Yeah, we were just talking about Vero Beach backstage. What's up? And then, here's actually a good point, and I wanted to throw it up on screen, but Kevin, you were talking, and I'm trying to not cover your face while you talk. So
You can
Hans
move the pictures up on StreamYard.
I know. Hans Chow says about costuming because they're cowards, but then he also says, honestly, it probably has to do with merchandise sales. People won't buy figures they already own. That might be a good point.
True, but I mean, the thing is, you can update a look, you can modernize a look, you can look at something that is cartoony and give it like some level of practicality. You know, like, oh, again, add the latches and straps and make it look like, oh well. And that was a big thing for a long time. Is you looked at superhero costumes and it was always just some kind of skin tight spandex. And then when we got to the MCU and you looked at Captain America's uniform and you could see latches and buckles and slide straps and actual belt loops and this and that, and they built practicality into it, but they kept the color scheme and they kept the overall look.
And I didn't have a problem with Storm Shadow either. I mean, they updated his, but I mean, dude went full on white outfit and made it practical to fight in, and I didn't have a problem with Storm Shadow's,
but he had coattails.
Version.
Yeah.
I never understood the coattails. Like, why does Storm Shadow have coattails on his outfit?
This formal wear, Storm Shadow.
Yeah, I couldn't get that. Yeah, I didn't have a problem with this roadblock. I mean, yeah, you could change some colors and you could pretty much nail it.
Yeah, and sometimes
I
that's
feel
all
like
it
if
takes.
they had switch the colors between his shirt and his vest, it would look the same.
Right, but you look at DJ Contra as Flint in Retaliation, but then you look at Brendan Fraser as what was that, Sergeant Stone in Rise of Cobra. I thought he was Flint the whole time I'm watching Rise of Cobra. I'm like, is that Flint on a four-wheeler? No, it's not Flint, but he looked just like Flint. They nailed Flint on accident
when they didn't mean to.
Yeah, so I don't know.
Well, that's
kind of one of those things.
We literally just had this conversation because we were talking about video games, and my thing is, anytime you have one of these projects, especially if it's coming from some pre-existing property, there should be almost like a boot camp for your creative department, and sit them down for 5 days, like a work week, possibly 2 work weeks, and you get like the lore experts and you get like a whole bunch of the source material and you pass that around and you get these people to like live in that world for at least 2 weeks to get an understanding of like which character's which, who's who, how they look, all this other stuff. And then now they have this, and also pass over this like dossier of like, here's your Bible, and this is what you're going to work from. It's like, and I want you to translate from this to where we are now. I don't understand why that doesn't happen more often.
Yeah.
And Hans says, let's not go to Hollywood. 'Tis a silly place. He's all about the quotes. What do you guys think about Retaliation Cobra Commander? Do you think it was a move in the right direction?
I think so. It wasn't what we wanted, but it was definitely better.
Yeah, versus the semi-transparent.
We're not talking about that.
Yeah.
I like the black.
I
thought it was cool. So
it was closer. I mean, and then they were working in little. They had their theming in there with like little fangs here and there. It wasn't too bad. I mean, yeah, it's stylized.
I just wish we could have seen like the casual version where he does dress up maybe in a blue or a dark blue thing, and the more classic hood. I mean, just give us something a little more classic, and then the one that we got could have been like the battle wear. I'm going to battle in this, something like that. But we could wish it was still the best. Retaliation was still the best Joe movie. So
a lot of times they do so much color correction, and they do they have so many layers visually that he could have been super dark blue, and then what came across on screen is like it nearly looks black, and then that's kind of delivering the best of both worlds. You're getting kind of a new look, but the truth is, in real light, he's blue. You know, there's been several cases in which if you look at the costume or you look at the prop in normal lighting, you're like, oh, it looks nothing like what it looked like on screen.
Yeah,
It was like that when the Wonder Woman costume was first announced, and it was just so, like, it had filters over and it looked brown, and everybody was like, what is this? And then you see other pictures like, okay, it is blue and red. Okay.
I'm sorry, Hans. I blocked the nude HD XYZ. Sorry. You have to go find that someplace else. That's when you know you're making a dent, people, when the porn sites start throwing up comments.
Yep. the Russian bots.
I'm getting somewhere. Yes.
It's the October Guard.
Yeah, it's something. I don't know. I think Retaliation was moving in the right direction. I really appreciated the fact that they just brought Storm Shadow back. There was never any real conversation about it. It's just like, oh, he's back. It's just like watching the Sunbow series.
Yeah.
You know,
Plus we had Red Ninjas. It was good. Yeah,
you did have Red Ninjas. You had Red Ninjas. I mean, but then Jinx was in yellow because it kind of sacrificed that whole color palette, sort of thing. But whatever, that's okay. What else do we want to talk about? So we talked about Hollywood costume designs and character translations. I know that that's kind of a big thing that, you know, Johnny, you and I talk about it, and I know that you and Newt talk about it. And there's actually a guy in the Finest, and God forbid, I mean, that guy, he sweats for his craft because he wears that Retaliation Cobra Commander costume, and it is perfect. And yeah, at Joe Fest, he was just dying. But, is there anything else you guys want to talk about related to costumes?
I don't know. I don't know what you want to cover or what you want to. My thing is, there's so much already out there in the real world that you can pull from and that you can like tap into. That if you're making this stuff, especially if you're doing a movie, that you don't have to stretch it so far. You know, and Cobra's, they're brilliant in that. And this is a big thing with bad guys. Bad guys are on the ball when it comes to branding. You know, they put Cobra emblems on everything, belt buckles on the shirt sleeve, on the chest. Like you have this stuff like everywhere. So I mean, maintain that theme, especially like when you're making a movie where it's like, yeah, look, they go nuts with this, but build a logic into it and an understanding of like, okay, why do they have it like this? Remember, I think you and I had that conversation where I was trying to think about in the hierarchy of Cobra that they would have standard issue belt buckles, but depending on either your specialty or your rank, it would be made out of a different material. So like if you're a lowly trooper, then it's like, oh yeah, you're just getting a gunmetal gray, here's yours. But then when you get into like a certain like bracket, it's like, oh, now you're getting a bronze one, or oh, now you're a Crimson Guard one. You're going to get one that reflects that.
You know, and to tie it into real world stuff, I mean, we don't want to call out the elephant in the room, but you know, Cobra's based on a certain 1930s, 40s organization somewhere in Europe, right? So the SS had the same thing with like all of their iconography. Like they had different colors. Go ahead, Kevin. I see you're chomping.
I just want to shout out Hans Chow. He wants to know. Basically, it's just spirit gum that you can get that you apply, and there's a certain routine on how to do it and to make sure you take care of the stash afterwards and stuff like that. It's easy to find. So, but I did want to mention that with the Finest and also the Star Wars 501st Rebel Legion there's a charity aspect to the costuming groups. But with the Finest, I wanted to share was that they donate money for military charities. And lately, the last few years, they've been working with K9 for Warriors, for, rescue dogs and dogs to help our veterans with whether it's PTSD or what have you, to help them. And we've donated a lot of money to them, and they were so kind to help us help them. And they opened up a new training facility in Florida. I don't remember the area, but one of their pens, they decided to name it after the finest G.I. Joe costume group, which was a big honor.
Aw.
And, whenever you go to a convention where you see a finest booth, you'll notice that there's a way to give charity. Right now, we have a QR code, too, that you can just scan and do it directly. And that money's collected and given to them. And the K9 for Warriors have been a wonderful group. I just wanted to make sure that people know that there is a reason why we do this, another aspect to it, and that we decided with the finest that was a way to kind of show the cause that we do. And of course, with the 501st and Rebel Legion, they also do charity appearances as well as request appearances and stuff like that. But there's always a different side of the costuming, that goes a lot deeper. It's not just the surface that you see of looking like your favorite characters. And I just want to let people know that.
And that's why I wanted you on here. but yeah, and you know that the service animals is something that's near and dear to my heart.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think it's really great that the costume club that you and I belong to does that, and it is really cool. And Johnny, I wanted to backtrack for a second, real quick, because we were talking about belt buckles, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you and I talked about this before. I'm going to pop this back on screen. This belt buckle that my wife's wearing, that's a phone case.
Oh, nice.
Oh, really?
So,
that's awesome.
for some reason, a cell phone case fit right over that. She's just wearing like.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So she's just wearing a belt with a normal buckle, just like a web gear belt.
Yeah.
And I had a Cobra phone case for a phone that I don't own anymore. And so I was looking at the case, and I just kind of like popped it right over the buckle, but the case is too long, so I busted out my Dremel, and then I got out more of that automotive trim.
Nice.
I cut off the edges, and then I just weathered the shit out of it.
That's funny because like when I do my method for doing I guess costume belt buckles, especially if it has to look a specific way, and like for mine, it's a casting of the Terradrome emblem. Like I made a mold of that, and so my Cobra belt buckle is actually cast from my original Terradrome when I was a kid. But on the back side, all I do is I create two little elastic loops, and then when I put my normal belt on, I simply slide that faux belt buckle over top of everything, and then I reposition it right back over top of the real belt buckle, so that I'm not sacrificing a belt for this costume. I can still use that belt for something else. So I have several of my costumes have what little, we call them fakie. That's one of the shorthands we have. We're like, hey, should we actually make this, or should we go ahead and put this on here, or should I just do a little fakie over top of it? Like, yeah, just make it a fakie.
Yeah, and that's all part of the little tips and tricks and do's and don'ts and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
You're talking about. So you're talking about this piece right here.
Yep, that's what my belt buckle's cast from.
That's really rad. I happen to have an extra, and it was over on a shelf. I was like, oh
nice.
I didn't want to do the faux pas where I like go off. I just went
really
and grabbed
creepy,
it.
just like drifting.
So I just went and grabbed it. But yeah, that's totally cool. I have to say that costuming has taught me all sorts of new skills. Like I never riveted anything ever. And I was like, well, I got to put some buckles. And I know, Johnny, I was picking your brain left and right. Like, how do I do this? What do I do? And like, I had a Dremel, and I just went and bought a riveting set, and I just started watching videos on YouTube. I was like, I can figure this.
Costuming has also given me respect, since I'm a big movie nerd.
Yep.
It's also given me a respect when I rewatch my favorite movies, and I'm looking at like what the stars have to wear, or their stunts, their stunt actors have to wear, and how hard it must be to get into this and to do that fight scene there. And I look at some stuff, and I'm sure you guys have gone like, first of all, how did they do that? And then you go, that could have been done more simpler, or that could, it's you start overthinking some of the stuff, but you start thinking those things,
The thing is with Hollywood is like, it's just got to last that shot.
Yeah.
Whereas with costumes, we're like, we need to make it last for this con and that con and that con, and hopefully not have to repair it. So
that's why we carry the fix-it kits to the cons.
Yes, exactly. You see these costumes in museums, and you're like, that's duct taped on. It's like, well, the camera wasn't seeing that side.
Yeah,
So,
I remember in the 501st Rebel Legion, we have what's called handlers. These are people that are part of the troop, but are usually out of costume or are wearing a costume that's easy to move around. And they have this bag with them that has maybe some Band-Aids, some water, but it's also got a fix-it kit in there too. And I take that with me anywhere I go. Yeah. Different colored electrical tape, glue guns, and those are like, and what is it? Duct tape. Those are like some of the big ones there, that you can do on the spot.
And you can have a needle and thread, like a simple color. It's
Yep, definitely. Yeah. You're right there, Chad.
Yeah. So I was pulling stuff down off here, and I didn't want you watching it in the background. So
translation: he's not wearing pants.
I am too. So you know what?
He's like, I gotta shut the camera off because I'm not wearing any breeches. And he's like,
if you guys know what they're called, I almost just wore my Ranger panties, and I was like, no one's gonna see. I'm not gonna get up. So, speaking of the fix-it kits, Kevin, right? So I thought it was funny. We were all kind of going in that direction with the conversation. And so this is my LBE for my Cobra officer, right? It's just a standard surplus LBE. I have real steel magazines in it though, right? Because I always believe like a little bit of reality goes a long way in a costume. But
that's funny because I took I have plastic AK mags and I took them apart and I actually removed the spring to reduce the weight.
Oh, so like these are
I'm like,
this is it. This is my fix-it kit, and I got an old Dragon Con badge in there, and everything I need is in here, and it's really useful. These are one of the things you want to put together. I've got glue guns, I've got duct tape, different colored, as I was mentioning, different colored electrical tape, and also a first aid kit as well, just in case. I found some rope down there, twine. You never know when you're going to need all kinds of stuff like this. This is in it. You just wear it around your back and you're good to go.
Look at that compliment right there. You guys do that? I'd like to add, meeting John and Newt and seeing firsthand all that goes into cosplay. You really marvel at the entire process.
Well, he had to come over because we modified that Cobra Commander costume. So he came over for a couple fittings and you got to see firsthand. So
this is how I get around the fix-it kit. It's just I have one of those butt packs on the back of my LBE, and I'm just like, if I need it, I'll throw it in there. But Kevin, I'm a big fan of it's military survival, but it also applies to costuming, right? So you have your 5 C's. So you have your cordage, you have your cutting tool, right? You have your carrier, you have your cover, right? Mm-hmm. So you get those C's and you just put it all in here. So I have some sort of combustion source, i.e. a lighter, right? I have the ability to cut something. I have the ability to tie or tape or wrap something.
Also, too, what is also important, as I mentioned, I combined 2 costumes because I had similar stuff. Like I did the Chuckles, and I also did the Tiger Force Recondo. Well, I'm going to tease something that I'm working on that everyone knows this character, and this is considered official resource. Is this picture of Billy? Yeah. Right. And we've all seen this, right? I have the pants, I have the belt, I have the boots, I have the sword, and this is all stuff that I can do. All I need to do is kind of work on this here. And the gun right there, got it, Dollar General.
Nice.
Do you have the Schmedium black T-shirt though?
Of course I do.
I
just need to work on the band. I need to work on this. I have the knife, but this is all stuff that I can do. And guess what? I have the patch already from
Major Blood.
So
does your eye patch Is it like a real eye patch, or did you?
It's a real eye patch. Yes.
Did you
I-
make
I-
a fakie?
Honey,
I have not
There it
made a
is.
fakie to where I can see it. I have an old pair of eyeglasses where I'm going to take one so I can actually see better out of it,
Okay.
and I'm gonna try and work on something so I can actually see better. But the major blood, I am visually impaired.
Yeah.
I dig that. That's cool.
So after you take it off, do your eyes like have to adjust?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Man, that would suck.
because I'm like going, ah.
Fine.
You know, Kevin
John,
and
John went through that with your Captain Harlock costume.
Yeah. That was weird.
another
And then
thing that. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, please.
It's just like because the eye patches that I made a couple different fakey versions. One was cut down from an actual pair of dark sunglasses, where it was all the frame, everything was all the same plastic, and I just dremeled slots for the strap to go in. And then the unfortunate thing with that is since it's plastic, if it's too close to your eye, enough heat is produced from your body that it'll fog on the inside. So you'll need to create a spacer to like vent it, let the heat vent out. And then the second fakey version was a frame, and it was just a stretch mesh material that you could see through naturally, but you couldn't see in.
Yeah. You can also use
look at-
anti-fog wipes as well.
Oh, yep.
So
there you
that's for Kevin, and that one's for John.
That's where you can find my
And
alternate
this
Chuckles
one's
cosplay.
for Newt.
Oh,
Yeah, buddy, we're bringing it back. Sorry about that.
No, you've made it. I do
But-
getting that kind of smell.
Kevin, kind of going back to what you're talking about as far as like being true to whatever figure, character, cartoon, comic, whatever. So the 1982 Cobra Officer has all black web gear, one gray pouch.
There you go.
One gray pouch,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
Gotta put it on the correct side. One gray pouch.
I just thought those were like either his smokes or some handcuffs. I don't know.
Well, and I can't remember if it's the trooper or the officer, but one of them has molded onto the load-bearing equipment a garrote for choking people out. You know, like the piano wire. I think it's the trooper. I'll have to go double check. But and then
Oh, and by the way, I was going to mention something about that major.
Joe's gonna go check it out.
Yeah. the
What's up,
the, ma-
Zazel?
the major blood. By the way, when I was doing that costume, I didn't really put two and two together, and I wasn't the only one. But I didn't know that Major Blood's arm was mechanical from day one, and I had to double check with people because the original action figure, yes, it's all black, but I just thought it was protection because of his rocket gun.
Yep.
And so I it wasn't until the classified figure came out and going, that's a robot arm. And then I'm like, I didn't realize that. And I don't remember in any of the original Marvel comics talk or make reference to that. And I don't remember if there was some other reference that Major Blood had a full mechanical arm. I just assumed it was an armored arm to protect it from that rocket.
I never
grenade
thought
gun.
of that. That's
Yeah.
I never went to that conclusion of like, oh, that's why his arm would be that way.
Yeah.
So do
Yeah.
you guys know, was he supposed to have a play feature or something? Do we know why his arm was solid and there was no elbow articulation?
Don't know.
They go back later and discuss how he got his hand chopped off, and then he had some other.
No,
work done on
the toy
arm.
itself, like on the toy itself, like
Oh.
why the
It's
toy
not
didn't have.
It's not articulated, Chad.
No, it is not articulated. Kevin.
I was wondering.
Yes!
If, like,
That's why I was going like this when you were talking about it. It's like they took freaking Deep Six's arm. They're like, throw that on there. It's just like
Yeah.
a solid chunk. Yep. Damn, that was good, man. I'm gonna chop that out later. I'm gonna keep that.
It's like
Good
when
job,
you're
Kevin.
watching a movie and they say the name of the movie in the movie, you're like, yes.
he's like,
Yeah.
name drop.
Welcome back to Chatting with Chad. Yeah. So, yeah. Newt, Johnny, Kevin, I'm going to ask all of you. Have you ever had a costume just freaking disintegrate?
Yes.
Like in what way?
At a con? Like at a con? You're at a con and you're
Johnny's
strutting
had
your
it
stuff
happen. I don't
and
think I've
shit
had
just
it
starts
happen.
falling off you?
Yeah, I've had stuff
It
fall
was
off.
your Harlock costume, right? Where all the
It was.
or was it Han
Was it that?
Solo?
I was using a
It was
cheap
something that a belt that you bought.
holster,
Yeah.
and the main buckle to the holster decided to pull through the crappy leather, and so it was like you're standing there, and the next thing you know is like the holster's like falling down around your ankles because of the weight of the blaster. It's like, oh great, you know, like now I have to walk all the way back to the Airbnb.
I didn't have anything that started falling apart. I did my homework. I watched other people go through stuff first, and I'll be honest with you. This is why when it comes to the 501st and Rebel Legion, I don't do armored costumes. I don't like being claustrophobic when it comes to costumes. I don't mind being. I'm not claustrophobic, but when I started doing the Mandalorian, Raider mashup thing, I realized how cumbersome it is. And I'll be honest with you, I hate wearing that thing. But because of the response that it gets is the reason why I do it. And I don't know why. And trying to go to the bathroom with that freaking plate over the crotch and stuff, I stopped wearing it. I took it off. I started customizing little things. And that thing, that original thing was just really tough to do. And I see, and because I've been a handler in the 501st and Rebel Legion, I've helped people put on their Darth Vader costume and their Boba Fett, and there's all these little pieces that you have to do. And I've helped other people at Dragon Con when something falls off, and I said, "Hey, can I help you? I got the kit here," and so I haven't had anything fall apart, but I've had some really uncomfortable days of wearing, especially that particular costume at games, just really be cumbersome. But I haven't had anything completely fall apart. Just little pieces that would break here and there that aren't that noticeable. But I'm always watching out for people at Dragon Con or the costumes. When I can see something when it's about to happen, I'll go, "Hey, can I help you there?"
Yeah, 100%.
It's just kind of that costume code when you've done it as many times as you had, and you've been around good people that can help you. Yeah, it's just something that you do and you help out.
Well, and they, not everybody can see. They can't see everything that's going on when it's like, oh, hey man, like you're dragging this shit behind you or something like that, and pick it up and tighten a buckle. And the biggest thing that both of my costumes, they're all surplus stuff. So, it fits, it works, it's, it's functional, it's nothing crazy. The biggest challenge that my wife and I have as a whole is her wig in the buckles.
Yeah.
Just the Baroness buckles. It's just that wig. Like,
it's right here, right where the snap is, where the shoulder armor meets the breastplate.
And the longer you wear it, there's just shit all in everything. And then the other thing, this is like a first world problem. My biggest gripe is people want pictures, or I go to get a picture with somebody, and you got to take all your stuff off and hang on a second and hold on. And then I put my gloves, and then I give them my phone, and then I got to put all this shit back on. I'm like,
back on.
It's interesting. It's interesting you say that.
Here.
I have a cheat. I have
my wife said, "Fuck that wig."
I have a cheat. When I wear something with gloves, I take the glove and I cut out like the part of the
shooter
glove.
finger.
The shooter finger, or I'll cut off the tip of it. And when I do pictures, I just hide it, and I do that. And that allows me to use the smartphone and stuff like that. But most of the time when we're in costume, we're costuming in pairs. So you watch out for each other. And so you have someone to move the hair out of the way. And you're all, you're
That's
always
what
looking
got
at
me for, man.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's your job. Your job is not only to get the groceries, but you're here to take that hair off that buckle.
My wife straight up, she said, "F that wig." Yeah, that's what we're there for.
There was a guy at PowerCon, one of the cosplayers at PowerCon, and he's like, "Here," he was handing off his phone to somebody to get a picture, and he had gloves on. But he actually brought a stylus so he could punch in everything and get it ready and then hand it off. I'm like, that's
smart.
genius.
I'm handing people my phone and I'm like, "Hey, punch this code in." You know, I'm just like, I don't know what the code is.
You're really
Going
trusting.
back.
Just leave the tip of one finger free. Just hide it when pictures and stuff like
Yeah.
that. It's the best thing to do. You know?
You know, the funny thing is, so I normally wear the long flight gloves with my Cobra officer. I wear the long flight gloves. And then my wife and I were talking after the last con we went to before Joe Fest. And we were like, okay, so like what's in the Army, we do a thing called a AAR, right? Which is an after action review where you talk about like what worked, what didn't, like sustains and improves. And so we were like, okay, so these are the sustains and these are the improves. And I started taking notes like fix this, fix that, redo this, tighten this down, like electrical tape, all this shit where you can't see it. And I was like, get phone screen gloves. And I did. I got a pair for my wife with
they
that
don't
cool
always
buckle.
work though. They say they do. They don't always work.
Mine didn't work, Kevin. Hers worked.
Yeah.
But immediately I put mine on. I'm like, oh man, right? I got hoodwinked. So but it was at Joe Fest, and I'm like, screw it, whatever. It didn't really matter. But I'm more of a. I like to be in the moment rather than just like behind my phone, so I don't get a lot of pictures.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Kevin.
I was just gonna say my my ATSD driver costume for the 501st, you know, the chicken walker drivers. My gloves, I realized I had used from a different costume, and I had the little thing that was cut out, and you can't show that in the picture, but in the picture I was able to hide it.
I have to touch on two things really quick. One, Kevin, I don't know if you saw it, but Gaz, Scuba Pete, and Hans Chow, I'll give the Ace Hunter, right?
That's right. Deeds, not words. Or
that's right. It's all on the wheel.
You love them in blue, you love them in red, but mostly you love them in blue.
I have to pull up this picture because I love this photo, man. And I'm just gonna like pregame it before I throw the screen up. I have to say, like, man, this picture just warmed my heart. Like, it's Star Wars, it's Disney, it's awesome. Like, I just loved this photo, man.
That was the Friday night of the most recent Star Wars celebration in Anaheim, and they had a special Star Wars night ticket that you could buy. And normally you can't wear costumes to Star Wars like that. You can wear Star Wars stuff, but you can't wear costumes because they don't want the fans to
intermingling with the cast and stuff.
But yeah, I had just gotten approval for my 501st Imperial Officers uniform there, and there we organized in our IOC Imperial Officers Corps to a bunch of us show up for this Star Wars night that we had tickets for, and we had about 30 of us show up. And imagine going into Galaxy's Edge dressed like that. And I'd like that famous picture. I was like, you know, I need to get a picture with Walt and Mickey Mouse there. And it just kind of, I'd forgotten I'd taken that picture. I didn't realize you pulled that one up, but that's great, man. I love it.
Yeah. When you guys were sending me all your vomitorium of photo dumps, I was like, man, I love this picture. It's just such like a genuine photo. I really like that picture.
And glasses are now canon in Star Wars, so I was able to wear my glasses.
That's right.
There you go, buddy.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a real cool picture. I really like it. And then Hans says, if you keep this up, Gaz, they're going to remake Megaforce. We may get the budget.
Oh, please, yes.
Fresh Monkey Fiction, Eagle Force, they're making Megaforce 4-inch action figures. And currently, I am having all the vehicles G'd up, and I'll have them soon.
Real quick, I just got to mention Megaforce came out in 1982. That's 40 years ago. And we're celebrating the 1982 films on one of our podcasts called Time Warp on our Fandom Podcast Network. And we just did Megaforce. And we're very proud of it. We went deep dive into Megaforce and how much we love it. And shared some pictures on the slideshow there. You can see it's on YouTube, Fandom Podcast Network. Just search Megaforce Fandom Podcast Network. It's a great podcast. You can also watch the video on YouTube.
Did you see that box set that came out?
Yes, it's an Australian release. It's the pre-release or the pre-order sold out, and I'm going to Australia because that's where my wife is from in November, and I'm hoping to find it somewhere, maybe at a JB Hi-Fi, which is their version of a Best Buy, because it comes with a patch, it comes with the hat. Comes with brand new behind the scenes interviews with the stars and some great pictures and stuff. I'm hoping to find it there.
I think I want to go to Joe Fest next year in a gold moose knuckle bodysuit.
I would do that. You got to find that right motorcycle helmet, that 70s, early 80s motorcycle helmet, though. You know, that's the tough one. That's one of those. Let me be honest with you. If I find that at a thrift store, that's when I start that costume.
Yeah, that would be rad.
With the moose knuckles.
So
Johnny.
on the in the toys, they have the perfect opportunity. You actually put the color change feature on the toys.
Oh yeah, with
The vehicles,
stealth mode on the vehicles.
exactly.
Stealth mode, baby. Yeah. Ace Hunter.
Yeah. So Scuba says I have to do it. Gas says Ace Hunter cosplayer. I don't know if I would do Ace though, because he has like the hair and the beard and the bandit. I can't no. Maybe
that would look
You
so
could,
bad.
as long as you get the costume down, you could pass for anyone in Megaforce. You know.
Well, yeah, because then I just put a patch on and I'll be like, oh, I'm like Megaforce member number whatever.
Yeah, you know, you could put the flag of your country, or you can pretend to be someone else's or whatever. But you just be careful. If you do Dallas, you just might want to go with the state of Texas flag. Not what he was. Not the Confederate one. That doesn't fly today. So
I don't know if I would do Dallas. I would probably just do like nameless Megaforce guy. But
yeah,
I'm kind of really thinking about it. Like I know, all kidding aside, like I would love to rock a Megaforce.
That would be fun. Yeah.
You guys got new costumes coming up? Anybody? Do you want to share anything, or are you keeping it secret?
Well, we actually thought of Halloween costumes early this year.
Nice.
Because normally we wait until October, and then we're like, oh, you know, let's crap something out 2 weeks before Halloween. So yeah, we're gonna do the bounty hunters from Critters 2.
Yeah.
Yes. Again, Lee.
Oh yeah, that's right. I saw your Quiet Riot.
Quiet Riot Mental Health album cover. I'm working on it right now. I got the red jacket. Found it, by the way, at a thrift store. Ordered some buttons. Not everyone's going to get it. They got to be my age, but that's what I'm doing. And it's a budget costume. It's great. And for those that know, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, when I saw you throw that picture up, I was like, man, that is rad.
Yeah.
So Hans is flying 8,000 miles to come to Joe Fest next year, and don't give him hope. So maybe I'll have to do it. I don't know. I think next year I'm going to rock my Vietnam Snake Eyes.
There you go.
So I
would
think
be
that's
cool.
a plan for. You know
how are you going to get the permanent shadow? Like, because remember in the comic, you always have like
the
a
boonie hat.
shadow.
I'm gonna work on that. But my wife and I already discussed it, and I'm gonna take. My daughter has one of those little Polaroid cameras.
Do you have a Starlight scope?
Oh
no, he had the M60, right?
He had the 60. He had the pig.
He had the pig.
But I already have linked 7.62 dummy rounds. I mean, they were blanks, but you know they're inert. I got all that. I got everything good, and I'm gonna take a little black and white little picture of my wife, you know, because it was just my sister. And I'm gonna, even though that's weird, my wife is my sister, my sister's my wife, but I'm gonna stick the picture in the hat and the whole 9 yards. So
I did want to just say real quick. I know there's some costumes that maybe you feel like you've retired and you haven't decided if you're going to go back to them ever again. And mine actually was my first one, which was the shipwreck. Because there's parts of it that did kind of like, you know, the grappling hooks and some other stuff. But I'm going to actually bring that back because a friend of mine retired his, and I actually got his shipwreck shirt because it says, you know, his name on it and his real last name and all that kind of stuff. So I'm going to bring one back. I'm going to bring sexy back. That's what I'm going to do.
Bringing it back. I'm bringing it back.
And two, I lost some COVID weight, so now I can fit into it.
Are you going to go to Joe Fest next year, Kevin?
I don't know yet. I've got some other travel that's planned, but I would really like to. That's in June, right?
Yeah.
I've still got family. I've got family in Georgia, so I could definitely take advantage of both of that. But I would love to go back. I love that show. It's great. Joe Atlanta, too, I miss, too.
Yeah, Joe Atlanta. Well, my wife and I might be teachers in Florida by then, bugging Johnny and Newt every other weekend.
Oh, that would be awesome.
That would be awesome.
That would be that would be cool. So, What about cons, Johnny? Newt, you guys got anything coming up? Dragon Con, right?
We got Dragon Con, and then
I'm leaving the day after tomorrow, so 7-hour
then-
drive.
whatchamacallit, in October there's like a little local convention, so we're gonna be set up for that.
Melbourne Toy and Comic Con.
Yep, Melbourne Twine Comic Con, which we've been going to that one for a while, and we basically first few years we just empty our house and just take our house, all our stuff down there and set that up as a display. But I think we'll shave that down and we'll try to do something different. And then what else? And then it gets quiet, which we're actually looking forward to because
We're actually going to start prepping for next PowerCon and DragonCon after. Because we haven't really, we kind of stopped going to MegaCon. It's kind of lost its, I don't know. We just haven't gone to MegaCon. The last time we went, we had kind of a bad experience, so I'm kind of giving up on that one. But we're going to do Spooky Empire, released on a Friday.
Nice.
In October, so.
Yeah, so that's a horror theme con,
Yeah.
which we like the theme convention. So like, a Joe Fest or some kind of like Masters Universe, or if it has a theme to it, it helps filter out all the casual fans. The people that are there for G.I. Joe are there for G.I. Joe. You know?
And that's
seeing a Harley Quinn at like a horror convention, you're like, why?
And that's one thing, like, this isn't a knock, right? Because everybody finds joy in their own thing. It's just a joke, right?
Yeah.
I know people, they get their panties in a twist about shit sometimes, but I like going to Joe Fest because I don't see like 647 different versions of Spider-Man, right? Or Spider-Gwen or Spider-Pig or something like that. And it's like, well, we went to the El Paso Comic Con to do like our fit tests for our Joe Fest costumes. Like what do we got to fix? We're at El Paso Comic Con. We did all the rounds in our costumes, down all the aisles and all the photos and all the people. And then we decided we were going to eat. We got some food. We kind of went away from everybody else off the convention floor, and we're just sitting down against the wall, minding our own business, right? I took off my helmet. I pulled down my mask. My wife and I are just sitting there, and a bunch of furries come up. And like the furries on the stilts and stuff. And like Kevin was talking about, they had a handler with them. It was like a social media person following them around. And that's cool if that's your thing, right? I'm all down for expressing yourself. God forbid anybody dogs on you for doing your own thing. But they came up and they're doing their thing, and they had like a boom box with them, and it was like this big production, and they're like strutting their way in. And there's like this weird quiet moment, and they just turn.
Oh, no.
And they looked at us peasants in our G.I. Joe costumes, and they were like scoffing at us, and I'm like what are you doing? Like, that's cool, whatever. So, yeah, but I agree. I like the theme stuff,
Yep.
And I have to say, this year at Joe Fest, when they did the costume contest, there was a husband and wife there with two kids, a boy and a girl. The girl was dressed as Scarlet. The boy was dressed as Snake Eyes, and they had a little baby as like Timber.
Aww.
They just killed it. Those kids look so cute.
The Finest has a great junior member group, and I've seen some wonderful costumes with the kids, and the kids are
those
so
teenagers
cool.
are killing it.
Yeah, and when I went to WonderCon and we had our group from the Finest show up there, we did a photo shoot there. We had some kids there that were dressed up too, and it's a lot of fun when the parents get the kids involved, and the kids get so excited, and they're so excited that you take pictures of their costume, and they love it. You tell they're just soaking it in, and that's when you know that like they get that when you got hooked, you can kind of see them getting hooked,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, totally. It was really cool.
Yep.
So, right on. You guys got any closing thoughts for the road?
Just want to say thanks for having me on, and Johnny, it was great to meet you guys. And
you too.
I'll make sure I follow you guys. It's great.
Yeah, they are ridiculous, man. They blow me away all the time. And Kevin, thank you for hanging out with me again, man. It's been too long.
It's an honor, man, and it was nice to meet you talking about G.I. Joe previously on another podcast, and it's an honor to be on. So thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. And I want to thank everybody in the chat for hanging out. I'd really like to thank Hans Chow for all of his comedy tonight.
I'll have to step up my mustache game the next time I come on, I guess, because he's keeping count.
Yeah.
Wow.
You got to get a Zanzibar mustache now.
I know. Right?
Ooh. I would like to see that costume. I would kind of like to see a Zanzibar in person. See if
you can get like a mobility scooter. Get like a mobility scooter and turn that into a skiff and just stay in the scooter.
Yeah. I want to see somebody dress up in sneak peek cosplay. If you guys have seen the card art for sneak peek, you know it's Stephen King's son, right?
Yep.
But he has this like face on the card art, and I just want to see somebody in sneak peek like costume just just walk around with this like I have no idea what I'm doing look on their face the whole time. I think that would be great.
That would be awesome.
Well, thank you guys so much, Johnny, Newt. Like you guys are masters of your craft.
Thank you.
I love you both so
thank you.
much.
Yeah, well done.
And Kevin, where can everybody find you, my man?
You can find me. Thank you again for having me on. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Spartan_Phoenix. Yes, that is a Demolition Man reference, one of my favorite movies of all time. But you can find me on the Fandom Podcast Network. Please follow us on YouTube, and also we're on Podbean at fpnet.podbean.com, and we've got a lot of different shows for all types of fandom. We've got Star Wars, Star Trek, Highlander. I host a hair metal podcast as well there. We do our favorite movies. We got a Doctor Who podcast, action film podcast, Fandom Podcast Network. Check us out, please. Subscribe and let us know what you think.
Very rad. Johnny, Newt, where can everybody find you guys?
Well, obviously, Simple Tricks and Nonsense is mine and his channel. You can also find me on Fans of Power, where we talked about all things Masters of the Universe. We had a great episode last night, so yeah. So you can find both of us. We're on YouTube and on Instagram and Facebook and all that good stuff.
And I have linked all of your guys' channels, podcasts, socials, Instagram, YouTube, your bank accounts. Everything is linked.
Our socials.
Yeah,
LinkedIn.
My DOD ID number.
Did you get my MySpace link? I'm still on MySpace.
Yeah, I got your MySpace.
My GeoCities
song. My LinkedIn. Everything is there. And again, I want to thank everybody in the chat for hanging out. It's really nice to have people come hang out with us. So thank you guys so much for talking costuming with me, because I didn't just want to talk about figures, you know, like there's so much more to it. And you guys are all masters, all three of you, at what you do with costuming. And I really wanted to, hey.
Go there, people.
You know what? I'm leaving that shit up. And Zazel from Sergeant Slaughter's Slaughterhouse just said he went and subbed to all of you. So Zazel's a really rad dude. His whole thing is about like build a positive community. So Zazel's a really awesome dude.
Good.
Awesome.
Thank you.
And Gaz is our resident Megaforce dude. So Kevin, you got a new BF now.
Yes.
Thank you guys so much. If you want to stick around when the show's over backstage, I'll be there. And thanks everybody for coming. And
Thank you,
you're all totally awesome, and I love you all. Have a great
night. See you guys. Thank you.
Thanks
for watching.